Ooh, another pretty little tune from Mr. Bordogni. Hope you enjoyed it. This one is in the key of B major. Some of you are going to look at all those sharps and they go like, uh-oh. and the only reason that might be is because you're not used to playing in B major. Someone has said there are no difficult keys, only unfamiliar ones. Well, I'm not sure I totally agree with that, but that's a big part of it. For us, and for any instrument that uses keys to produce changes in pitch, the key you play in is important because it results in different finger patterns. But there are a lot of things to look at in this piece, so I want to just take a few minutes and kind of survey through and see what we can find. First thing I notice is it says piano leggero, which means light and soft. And most trumpet players don't like that. So again, we think of this as a singing etude, as I've said many times before. A singer who would never kind of, hold back or be tentative with their sound production. What they would do is they'd change their attitude. My wife, who is an amazing pianist and accompanist, professional accompanist, says that dynamics are not so much about how loud or how soft, they're about attitude. So that's a great way to think about it here. So what is it? Well, it's kind of gentle, it's kind of relaxing, almost soothing. There's a little bit of a lilt to this tune. At least that's the way it seems to me. So then I think of a sound, a tone of voice, I call it, that supports the musical idea. And that's what I tried to do. I hope you could get the idea from the way I played it. When I look at a piece, well, I have to make a confession. I'm not a big music theory guy. What does that mean? Well, it means I didn't like music theory in school. And then once I started to understand how helpful it is as a performer to understand how the music is structured, how the composer was thinking about it, and how that can inform my performance, then I started to like music theory a little better. So I'll run through some real simple stuff for you. What I do is I look at the simplest structure. So at the beginning, the introduction, you might call it, or the first part, is in major, B major, and then it goes into a minor mode, and then it comes back into B major with the same material at the beginning. So the form is ABA. So anybody who studies music knows what that is. And it's a very, very common form. But what I like to look at is what are the details in the actual harmonic relationships and the pitch relationships. Where are where are the landing points? Where are the points of emphasis? If I played it at the beginning and I play it with I'm going to try and play it with no emphasis. That's very difficult for me, but I'll try and do it. So that's very plain, and plain is okay. But this music is Italian. It requires a little bit more romantic expression, I would say. And so you have to allow, even within the piano dynamic, what are called commonly phrasing dynamics. But how do you get those? You just kind of impose some idea of expression? No, look at where you're going. So what do I mean? This is what's basically happening. That's the beginning. The other stuff is decoration. So see if you can recognize that in the music. Now it might take a little bit of experimentation. Play through and see if you can hear the points where one note is more important than the others, or one group of notes has more weight to it than the others. That's what you want to be looking for, and this gives you kind of a map. It shows you how to, I grew up on skis from when I was 5 years old, so it shows you the lay of the land. It shows you what you're dealing with in terms of the changing contours. This is not like a groomed slope where everything is flat, which is great when you're learning your skills. But when you get a little bit more ability, a little bit more coordination and skill level with your playing, you want to take to the moguls and challenge yourself a little bit. So here you have a lot of up and down, a lot of changing of direction, and this is what gives many people problems. But hearing it is, for me, is the beginning of the whole thing. Let's see. Let's go to the end. The ending, you hear the same material. When it says a tempo, goes back to what I mentioned, the A material again. So you have the same melody that I just played. And then it changes. And at that point where it changes, it could have ended. See, that sounds like the ending. It's tonic, it comes to a pause. That could be the end. But he decided to put a coda on. Now, it doesn't say coda. It's not like in a march where, have del segno, coda, and all that kind of stuff. What he did is he just made a musical coda. It's like an addendum. It's something that's added on to the end to bring a little bit more interest and kind of a balance to the piece. Let me play a little bit of it for you. That's sweet. That's a very nice tune. Not easy to play on the trumpet. If you play clarinet, it's probably quite a bit easier. But, we chose this instrument, so we're responsible. Okay, at the end, that thing with the octaves and the grace notes, that's probably going to cause a little bit of annoyance for some players. And there are a couple of reasons. One is the grace notes, and the other is you're changing octaves. So interestingly, Bordogni leaves this to the end of the piece, and I think that kind of agility is also challenging for singers. So this is what he's trying to get people to cultivate here. Always make something that feels awkward or difficult or strained, make it easier, make it more comfortable. Now, how do you do that here? Just get the feeling of blowing through. Play the upper octave. See, that doesn't feel quite good to me. So I'm going to practice just what does the upper F sharp taste like? What does the lower F sharp taste like? Then how can I make them as close together as possible? How can I make them comfortable so it's very easy to move back and forth, and I don't feel like I'm kind of like shifting gears awkwardly. That it's bumpy. It should be totally smooth. So that's something definitely to work on. Now, there are a lot of things in this piece that I want to talk about, and I don't want to go too long today, which I often do. We'll look at the arrival points. Now, I mentioned this at the beginning. Those markers, those places where the notes have more weight or the one note seems to be more important, that's what you want to always play toward. So right at the beginning, if you think of it in the way I just outlined previously, you see, I'm going to the notes that have more emphasis, that have more weight, they're more important. This is a difficult concept for trumpet players to get. Not all the notes you play are equally important. Therefore, they should not be equally emphasized, either in terms of dynamics, articulation, color, vibrato, or any other way that you can kind of draw attention to the note. Some of them you want to just throw away. So if you're a very technically oriented person, and we need to be on this piece since we're playing in B major, when you're playing those scales, most of us have to work a while in order to get that to be really easy and really natural and really comfortable. If you're having trouble with it, just take it up a half step. That's a great therapy because if you're like me, it's going to feel a lot easier when you're playing in C than when you're playing in B major. And this is very therapeutic. A lot of times we spend our practice proving to ourselves that we're having trouble playing the trumpet. You always want to look for an easier way. This is what Herbert Clark did, and he recommended it to all his students. So those scales are a big part of what we do. If you don't know the B major scale, if you can't play it by ear, if you don't have it automatically under your fingers, then this is going to be a very annoying little etude to play. So the first thing is learn the scales. And if you're having trouble with that, enjoy the etude, play it in a different key. Now that means you have to transpose it, but that's also good for your ears. So you really can't go wrong with this. My next project in the Arbin book, when I can get around to it, is scales. And nobody likes scales, and we all have to play them. We had a scale requirement, or still have a scale requirement at Boston Conservatory of Berkeley. And I only heard in all the years that I listened to playing exams at the end of the semester that all the students have to play their scales, I only heard one person in the entire time I was there play them like music. They were beautiful and happened to be a professional horn player from Spain. And it's just, oh, thank you so much for playing music. Yes, there are technical obstacles. What are they an obstacle to? The music. If you can't play the scale evenly, if you're struggling with it, you need to practice your scales. So that should be a daily dose. And you can go right to the Arbin book and just open this, look at the table of contents and see where it says scales and play through it. Play a different one every day. Don't work on the ones you're good at. Work on the ones that are less familiar and more challenging tactically. Okay, so I'm giving you a suggestion. I know that most of you won't do it based on my experience, but if you take a little dose of this every day and you're honest with yourself, you say, oh man, that needs to be smoothed out. It's going to go a long way toward having a lot of fun playing a piece like this. You don't want anything getting in your way. You want freedom. Freedom is what it's all about. So, let's see if we can promote our own freedom with this. One more thing, and then I'll let you go. I know I say that a lot, but here we go. He has phrase markings here, and you can hear the phrases, but a lot of times the composer will have notation in such a way that he makes it very clear how he wants things phrased. And you might, if there were no markings at all, you might have a lot of options, good options, as to how you would phrase it. This is what I'm talking about. At the beginning, the first 8 notes are underneath one marking. And you can say, well, that's a slur. Okay, call it a slur. It can be a slur and or a phrase marking. And then the next, what is it? 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, the next group of notes is also underneath a phrase marking. And then the next group of notes and the next group. So I'm actually showing that. And what I want you to do is listen for it. If I play it without the phrase, I have to tell you, based on my observation, I think it was Toyota that built a robot trumpet player. If you may have seen that, it's a little bit scary. That robot trumpet player plays a lot less mechanically than I just did. It plays much more musically. Of course, it was programmed by human beings, so there you go. But pretty soon the robots will be stealing from us. Well, I guess they already are. But that's another subject. Maybe some other time. Listen to the phrase. I'm going to play it with the phrase. A big part of phrasing is when am I carrying the sound and when am I releasing, when am I letting go of the sound. And that goes back to what I said, those anchor points, those places where the groups of notes where you're playing to a note of more significance. It's the same idea. Now this is totally open to musical interpretation, which what makes this fun. But the main thing is you have to listen for it. Along with that is, I just said carry. Sometimes when you're playing a long note, you have to carry it. Portamento means to carry, and usually that means carrying between notes. But even when you're sustaining a note, there's always this idea of carrying it. What are you carrying it with? Well, the wind flow is carrying the note. It's physical, and you're following through mentally because you're always leading someplace. So at the end, in the coda, that wasn't very good. I wasn't carrying. I hope you get the idea from that. I didn't do it very convincingly there, but this is it's a mental thing. It's a mental musical thing. Let me give you another spot where this is something where you have to carry. Usually when you're slowing down and when you're getting softer, you need to carry. So right before it goes into the rallentando in bar 31, you need to carry through the rallentando. Could you hear I'm carrying through the silence? So it's not just a physical thing, it's mostly a musical thing. This will be in all these etudes. In any traditional music, you're going to have this, where you're carrying the energy from one moment to the next. So I hope you can experience some of these things in your own playing and hear them. Record yourself and see if you're being successful getting what might be a beautiful and perfectly appropriate musical imagination out of your mind and through the horn. If you're doing that and you hear it in the recording, it's successful. If it gets past the end of the horn and into somebody else's ears through a recording, that's successful. So I'll let you go now, and I hope you enjoy applying some of these principles in your practice. Have a great day. I'll see you later on. Bye-bye.